started this fake autobiography of Kim Jong-il, who's the father of the current leader. You started by saying, in his voice, "I remember the day that I was born perfectly."
Yes, well, he has perfect memory of everything.
Of everything, exactly, which would seem totally ridiculous, but it actually is very representative of the way Kim Jong-il, his father, and now his son have run that country. And there's a level of being sinister behind this mythologizing.
Oh, absolutely, because the whole idea is that he's the only smart person in the whole country, so if he goes away, the country's going to collapse, so you better have your faith in the dear leader or the great leader.
And it's been taken to just incredible extremes. We've seen it in other communist countries in the past where the leaders have been completely blown out of proportion, but this is just absolutely crazy, and North Koreans have to show their respect before the thousands of statues and images of these guys that exist all over the country.
And it's been crazy even by communist standards since the 50s. Khrushchev, had contempt for this personality cult, and that's when things started to veer off and North Korea became more and more isolated. So for 60 years, they've been going in their own crazy direction.
And how has that propaganda worked?
Well, it worked for a great deal for the father, Kim Il-sung, but when Kim Jong-il took over, that's when the famine hit. So he was either blamed for it or blamed for not being able to help it. So if you speak to any refugee, they have nothing but contempt for Kim Jong-il.
Let's look at some of the really absurd things that you mentioned in the book. Kim Jong-il could shrink time.
Yes.
You also talk about how there was an overwhelming outcry, supposedly, by lawmakers. When his father said that he should be the next leader, that it was the lawmakers who said, no. The father said, actually, that his son didn't need to be the leader, and the lawmakers said, no, he has to be the leader. He also mentioned that he doesn't eat, that he doesn't sleep, that he recreated opera. That he hated the Mona Lisa because it was ambiguous.
Right.
But then there, one of the famous ones is how he supposedly shot 8 holes in one the first time he played golf.
Right.
I mean, just crazy stuff.
But those are the least of the absurdities. I think the biggest absurdity is that this is going on Earth right now in this kind of Nazi-esque sense, and people are more interested in, let's say, Dennis Rodman than in these poor 24 million people who are suffering every single day.
And this week's report just showed how horrible that suffering is.
Right.
And under the circumstances, why do you think he's managed to get, well, he and his father and his grandfather have managed to get away from it?
Well, because if you're willing to have 10% of your population starve in order to maintain power, what's going to take you out of that leadership position? They have complete contempt for human rights. In fact, their definition of human rights means national sovereignty. So anyone who talks about their politics is violating their human rights. So they've got this great way of manipulating language. For example, they also say, we don't use the term concentration camps, therefore we don't have them here. So it's Orwellian to a very terrifying degree.
Michael, we know that people of North Korea are sheltered from anything that frames their leaders in a negative light, but what about Un and his regime? How aware are they of how they're depicted internationally?
Oh, the regime is very aware of how they're viewed internationally. In fact, they liked my book cover on Instagram, which was yes.
They liked it?
I got a like, so I don't know if that's good or bad. But they frame a lot of their propaganda for external purposes because they want to present themselves as crazy. Because if someone's crazy and they have nukes, they might set them off. So you're not going to want to attack them militarily. So they're very clever. And in fact, many references in books to stories that are outlandish, they remove them from the archives when you go back and look for the references.
Oh, really? So they do this craziness in order to make the rest of the world feel more threatened?
Right, of course. And who's going to attack a crazy person with nukes? Nobody.